Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of On the Record. When we envisioned On the Record, we envisioned it as both a venue to talk to people about the joys of vinyl and ways to take care and improve their at-home music lifestyle, but also to highlight some of our favorite musicians. For this episode, we were lucky enough to speak with Emmet Cohen, a renowned pianist who not only has a respect for the jazz masters of the past, but also has his hand in helping the jazz masters of the future. His latest album, Universal Truth, features tributes to some of the past jazz masters like Miles Davis, Thelonious Monk, John Coltrane, as well as having a phenomenal three-part suite written by Emmet himself. So let's get right into the interview. I was reading up on history, and I didn't realize that at one point you were a proponent of the Hammond B3 organ.
Yeah, I play piano. I also play some saxophone and clarinet. Not many people know that. I haven't touched them in a long time. But my other main instrument is the Hammond organ. And I used to go to this jam session as a kid in New Jersey. And I would go there and there would be no piano, no one playing the piano, only an organist. And if I wanted to participate, I had to get up there and figure it out. So I remember I mustered up the courage one night to get in front of the Hammond B3, and the guy told me just to walk the bass line here and play the melody and chords here, and it worked out pretty well until I hit one of those black keys, and then it silences all the sound, and then you don't know what's going on. It's basically like flying a plane. If you went into the cockpit, you'd be like, I don't know the first place to start. But then after a few hours, you know, a few flights, few years, you get the hang of it. So it's one of the things I love to do. But here I'm playing piano tonight at Scullers.
You ever get the urge to do that again, to bring the organ into your repertoire of recordings?
We've done a couple of special live streams and stuff with the B3, but piano's really my main axe. I'm afraid if I show up with the B3, everyone will ask for their money back because they wanted to hear me play piano. So
at this point, probably true.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, we'll have to test it out. Well,
one thing that has always impressed me with your playing is you always look like you're having a really good time. You play a lot with Joe Farnsworth, and he kind of has that same vibe. And I think that's one of those things I really like about your music. You know, I'm wondering, you grew up in a period of time. You were born in what, 1990, something like that.
Exactly.
And you grew up in a period where, you know, there was a lot of this top 40 pop that was getting all the play with people that were in your generation. Why jazz? How did you get into jazz as your favorite genre?
I had a big moment in my childhood of loving classical music, and I still do. And it was all about Bach and Chopin and Scarlatti and just a bunch of other composers like Mendelssohn, and so I was learning a lot about that, and then played some Scott Joplin, played some George Gershwin, and heard the music of Oscar Peterson. Went to go see Monty Alexander live, and just kind of experienced some more of the joyous nature of music, and that really drew me in. And so I went down that path and I explored, and I went to a few jazz camps. There was this place called Jazz Connections in Montclair State University, and they had some master musicians like Billy Hart running around, and I was taking classes with them and learning little by little. You know, when you're learning, you don't really understand. You're just gaining information, and so I harnessed a lot of harbored a lot of information there, and then I went to Litchfield Jazz Camp in Connecticut. And there was another place where I was around all these young musicians who all wanted to do this professionally and were playing at the highest level. And I'm like, wow, there's actual people my age that like to do this. And so whatever NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and stuff that I was hearing when I was 10 years old, that was a distant memory. And I was looking forward. It was like John Coltrane, Miles Davis, Horace Silver, Cedar Walton, who I got to hear live, Hank Jones. I started just getting more and more sophisticated into the lexicon of jazz and also pianists, and heard guys like Freddie Hubbard, like, wow, what's that? Just went down the deep rabbit hole. I grew up in the time, it was a very specific time where CDs were phasing out and streaming hadn't yet started. So it was like, we call it the Napster LimeWire generation. So I would sit up.
Bad words in the industry.
Right, oh, horrible. Yeah. But I was just, 13, 14, 15 years old, and I would be researching these guys on Napster and find a rare this is before YouTube, where you could find all that stuff now. I found rare concert from Herbie Hancock and Oscar Peterson. I'm like, what are they doing playing together? And so I would collect these little individual tracks that really taught me a lot about the music, whether it was that or Chucho Valdez, Piquito de Rivera, or some contemporaries of mine like Gonzalo Rubalcaba, different styles of music. And I just started hearing different guys. Heard Benny Green was really a big influence on me. And just every time I heard a sound, I would try to imitate it and bring it into what we were doing, try to play the songs. And then years later, I would have an opportunity to be on stage, and we would try to play this stuff. And then as the years went on, we tried to play that stuff in our own way. And that's where we are now.
And bringing those roots that are so important and interpreting them in a modern format and a modern interpretation. Yeah. And that kind of brings us to the new album, to Universal Truth, where you've got obvious influences of Miles and Coltrane and Thelonious Monk, and then your 3-part suite that is fantastic. I mean, the album is I've pretty much worn it out at this point listening.
That's nice. We'll send you a new one.
Yeah, it's a great album. I mean, what was the impetus around the 3-part piece, the Universal Truth suite, I guess I'll call it?
Well, we wanted to acknowledge the fact that it was the centennials of Miles Davis and John Coltrane. And centennials are a big deal in jazz, and every year, a couple of years, we have another big one because we're right in that era. I don't know if it was like that 250 years ago when they were honoring, Bach and Beethoven and
well, we didn't have streaming then.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know if they honored their centennials like we do now. But it's a really big chance to celebrate these artists that gave us so much, that laid the groundwork for how we should play, how we should listen, how we should act as human beings. And for me, I didn't want to let 1926 go unnoticed. 100 years later, here in 2026. Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Jimmy Heath also. We played a Jimmy Heath track on the album called Gingerbread Boy. So that's another subtle nod to the Centennials theme. And
you even brought in some Rodgers and Hart.
Yeah. And the funny Valentine was we wanted to see if we can get Ron Carter and George Coleman in the same room recording My Funny Valentine, which would have been 60 years later after they recorded it with Miles Davis, just down the street in New York City. They recorded that at Lincoln Center, and we recorded on 53rd Street. So, I mean, it was not even 13 blocks away from where they did that 60 years prior. So for me, I'm always looking for connections, things to bring the music full circle, and to create those little moments that say like, okay, we did this thing because of the history and all that stuff. We're going to do it now. We're going to do it in a modern context, but we're going to do it our way. And that's exactly what the live stream Emmett's Place was too. It was we're going to do a Harlem Rent Party in Harlem 100 years later in the Roaring 20s. Just this time an updated virtual version, and we're playing some of the music from the Stride tradition. We're making it our own, and then we're incorporating all this other stuff in, and that's the end of the explanation. All the rest is just music. And so it was the same for the album. To honor Miles and Train is important to honor Bud Powell and Thelonious Monk. In order to honor musicians of that caliber and their artistry, it's my belief that we must look inside and honor our own artistry. So in order to do that justice, I wanted to come up with some original works that kind of described it through sound how I felt about Miles Train and the rest of the 100 years that have gone by since they were born and left so much on this earth. By honoring them, we honor our own artistry.
And it's clearly an honor. There's so many artists because of the Miles Train 100-year anniversary. I've heard from a lot of other artists that basically they're pretty much doing covers. Miles and Train, they were innovators, and they were always looking for something different. Train was very ethereal, I guess, or spiritual in his sort of direction. Miles was always looking for some new technique or a new sound, and you're doing that with Universal Truth, with honoring the roots, but changing them, making them your own. I saw you last in New Hampshire a few months ago, and you were mentioning sort of the other extreme. You're honoring the past, but you had a desire to help future musicians, younger musicians, to figure out how to make a business, or how to organize their lives, to be effective musicians when they come out of school. They know how to play, but they may not know how to deal with the business and everything else in the industry.
Yeah. So now we moved our live streams to a place called Power Station NYC, which is now owned by Berkeley. So there's that Boston connection here. And we do a show every single month with usually some established jazz musicians. Last month was Chris Potter. We've also had George Coleman and Joshua Redman. These are all at the new place now in the last 6 months. And one of my big goals for each show is to have a younger musician come on and join the more established musicians. And it's incredible, actually. There was a young lady named Skylar Tang who played with Joshua Redman on that episode back in December, and she got some notoriety from the community, and she secured an international booking agent, which is really hard to do in jazz, especially when you're coming out of college. So they've already taken a chance on her and given her some platform to do her thing. So if I played some small part in that, that facilitation, or made it happen sooner than it might have, that's exactly what you're talking about. And I think that's one of the big gifts now that I'm not the youngest guy in the room anymore, but I'm kind of in that middle range to try to connect the generations. That's a really important thing to me. There's the jazz masters, and then there's the up and comings. And for me to find that middle ground and to be able to navigate that with grace, where I can look in both directions, that's one of my main goals now. And we even did that with the album. We had Ron Carter and George Coleman play on the album, and then we had some other musicians like Joe Farnsworth and Jeremy Pelt and Tavon Pennicott and Yasushi Nakamura, and then us. I'm here at the bottom as the youngest guy on the record as well. So I'm always looking for interesting and new ways to make those connections. And I think by doing that, we also connect with audiences who realize that what they're witnessing in real time, that it's not about just the artist, it's not about just the music, but it's about the holistic view of what it means to study art and to interpret an art form through the generations. And that's really where we are.
So you mentioned a couple times being at the end of the CD era. How do you feel about organizing an album? Is that different for the streaming world versus the physical media world? Do you think about that at all when you're writing?
Definitely. I think writing, you don't want to think too much. You just want to write. One of the best ways to write is to create parameters for yourself. I just gave this 6-week course to younger musicians. I taught online, and one of the experiments that we did, I like to call practicing experimenting. And one of the experiments that we created was that I had everyone in the room set the timer for 20 minutes, and they were expected to write a song, write a tune, write something, and the people were so astounded at what they came up with when they limited their choices. So you don't have time to think in 20 minutes. You just have to write whatever comes to you. It's like almost a stream of exercise. And I thought that was really interesting because it got everyone out of their shell and everyone out of their box. And when it comes time to writing for analog versus digital, then you have another restriction. And that restriction is, okay, there's 42 minutes that fit on this vinyl. Mm-hmm. What am I gonna put on there? And so a lot of times we work backwards. We record all the stuff we wanna record in the studio. And then we say, okay, what tracks can we fit on that 42 minute side? Mm-hmm. And how do they organize? We probably wanna start with something upbeat. We probably wanna, continue with something a little more mysterious. Then, maybe play something right down the middle or a shuffle, something like that. And then a lot of times I've learned is that the last tune on the side is a ballad, because it's a little bit softer and you can get a little more out of the vinyl record right. If you have a ballad
as that narrow group,
so that's an old trick that a lot of the record producers used back in the day. But that's one way to do it. But I normally like to take what we have and then see how we can craft it around and create a cool listening experience where you get to experience that 40 some odd minutes of music, and then you have to get up out of your seat and flip the record over, which is something new for me because I didn't grow up with vinyl. Mm-hmm. So now I've been working backwards, but it's just an amazing listening experience to not have to take out your phone mm-hmm. and not go into Spotify and not look at every single option. You just have that one record and you get to absorb that thing. And I think that's really a lot more beneficial than scrolling through all your favorite tracks and just mm-hmm. going through your own playlist. No, you have to really focus, listen to the record, get up, flip it over, and you learn a lot more that way as a student of jazz mm-hmm.
Than
you might just going on YouTube and listening to,
track here, track there.
Yeah, just a whole night of music on YouTube, which is also good. And I like to put things on YouTube, and we have a massive channel with mm-hmm. thousands of videos. But there's all different types of ways to listen to the music. YouTube has become one of them. Live stream, of course, and then CD, mm-hmm. cassette, streaming, radio, mm-hmm. and then vinyl is just going to be on the island out here mm-hmm. always as one of the most special mediums. So thank you for providing a wonderful vinyl player for my house.
Oh, you're welcome. We're happy to oblige. And yesterday I was listening to, I think it was one of the PBS, I think it was NPR, yeah, and they were talking about a trend now for people to collect matchbooks, like antique matchbooks. And it hasn't really been for any reason other than the nostalgia. And the discussion got around to vinyl. I've always felt, and one of the reasons I'm in the business that we're in, is that vinyl is something that's a very intentional act that you have to go through the some people would call it inconvenience of taking the record out of the sleeve, handling it carefully, putting it on, letting it play through, and not having some button you can push to change the tracks all the time. I've always felt that just having that full side of programming gives you, the musician, the ability to weave a more complete emotional picture. Our first interview on the record was Christian McBride, who I know is a colleague of yours.
I've been to his basement. He has 3,000 records down there,
yeah.
And space for more.
And I did see that he was one of your idols, that when you were growing up, that you were really happy when you first got to play with Christian.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he's saying
I still am really happy when I get to play with him. That doesn't end.
Even though you're playing with Ray Brown and some of the greats as well, it's that's he's a great guy.
I mean, ritual was the word that stuck out from what you said. It is a ritual to check the record, look at the liner notes, mm-hmm. take the thing out, brush it off, put it down, very carefully drop the needle.
Yep.
And sit back and experience, and that's something that has been quite lost mm-hmm. in music, but it's making its way back because people really resonate with that process and are looking for that ritual that's something other than cell phone in the face.
Yep.
So that's an antidote to all of the other algorithmic stuff that's going on. You can push the algorithm out the window, and you can just get a wonderful vinyl. And then you can go to the stores and kind of collect. When I'm with Christian McBride, he's always hitting the record store, and somehow he knows exactly where to go to find the stuff that he needs and doesn't have, and he'll always leave with a big stack. And
Jeremy, your buddy Jeremy.
Jeremy Pelt as well. As I just traveled for 3 months with him, and he got about 5 to 10 vinyl records on every stop we made. Found the record store, took the Uber to the place, and went through the discs, and so that's what I'll be doing now that I have my Andover system.
Great, excellent.
Well, it's been a tremendous piece in my living room, and you guys were so generous to outfit all the musicians in my band with an Andover record player, spin play, and I know they appreciate that. They think about our tour, they think about you guys every time they wake up in the morning and put something on. And I know that it'll spread. Your generosity is such that it'll spread when people go over to their house and check out what they're doing, and ask me what my vinyl player is and what I listen to on. I always tell them it's an Andover, and I think that you guys are gonna expand and really make a difference in the auditory world.
Great. Well, we appreciate you spending the time with us. For those of you who are watching, make sure you go out, pick up the album Universal Truth. If you're in any town where this gentleman is playing, it's bound to be a good show, and it's bound to be different each time.
Cool.
Yep.
Thanks so much, Bob.
Thank you.
Yeah.